Oh man, that's great. I'm pumped to get in. I want to get in one.
Hey guys, I'm Jordan Fromer. I believe in hunting hard, hunting smart, and having a fun time while doing it. And shooting limits, well, that's just the icing on the cake. I revel in the journey just as much as the successes it brings. From ducks to dogs to decoys and guns, we'll be talking tactics, strategies, and what it takes to get the job done. Load up and take aim. This is the Duck Gun Podcast. What's going on, folks? I'm Jordan from Duck Gun Chronicles. Got my co-host alongside me, Elliot from Freelance Duck Hunting. How you doing tonight, Elliot?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited about hanging out and talking a little postseason waterfowl hunting.
Yeah, me too.
I'm not seeing the room on the live stream on your channel. You sure it's public?
Let me double check. Yeah, it's running. Are you checking the Duck Gun Podcast YouTube?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
You may be right. It may not be public.
That helps.
How do I change it once we're live? Well, it ain't hurt nothing if we're private right now. Here we go. It's public. Done. Save. You want to check again?
I'm figuring I'll get a notification. I normally do, but yep, there's the notification there. Yep, there it is.
Sweet. Well, I'm going to redo the intro. You guys are going to see a little, whoever's watching the playback, you guys will see a little bit of behind the scenes, but we'll jump right back into it. So what's going on, folks? I'm Jordan from Duck Gun Chronicles. Got my co-host alongside me, Graybeard, Elliot from Freelance Duck Hunting. How you doing tonight, Elliot?
I'm doing good. The take two, and we're ready to roll, ready to talk some postseason waterfowl. And I'm even more excited now because just while we were hanging out and waiting to talk, I get a call from my district that school's canceled tomorrow because of the rain, the ice, I should say. And talk to Corn. I think we're going to go and goose hunt Corn's Pond tomorrow afternoon. So things dramatically improved over the last 5 minutes.
Sweet. Yeah, that's a big change from working to no school and hunting. That's a good upgrade.
Yeah, absolutely. I should probably tell the wife. I don't know if I should break the news to her now on air or wait. I'm sure she'll be cool with it. She doesn't want me sitting around all day bugging her anyway.
There you go. So the topic for tonight, maybe not everybody's favorite topic, but it's something we have to do. We have to talk about the season ending. You know, nobody's favorite time of the year. I mean, unless you're going crazy and hunting, maybe you're ready for a break. I'm a little bit ready for a break after smashing it. I went back and through our stats and counted how many days I've been hunting, and it's almost embarrassing how many times I've gone.
How many?
You got to guess?
Well, I don't think you broke 60. I'm thinking upper 50s.
No, it wasn't quite that many. No, I meant like I'd have to go look back to be exact. I'm 46 or 47 right now.
Okay, I thought you said you were in the 50s, or you thought maybe you were gonna.
I thought I was gonna be, yeah. So I think I'm at 47, and yeah, I won't break 50.
Did you shave your beard?
I didn't shave it. I trimmed it.
Oh, you took a lot off it.
I did take a lot off of it.
Oh man, mine's longer than yours is now.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Take that.
Yeah, the guys at work were giving me a hard time, saying I was like my younger brother or something came in and.
Yeah, I'll tell you, with this gray I've got on mine, I look so much younger without a beard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. I don't have any plans to take it off. I'm liking it.
Nice. You growing it out full Dr. Duck style?
I doubt it. I don't really care for the looks of those beards that get that long.
Yeah.
Gosh, you do look younger. Oh my gosh.
Come on, it's not that bad.
You look really thin and trim.
Well.
But I honestly, I don't think those super long beards are that attractive looking, quite honestly. So
Yeah, I know what you
um,
mean.
I'm not attracted to Dr. Duck. I can officially say he's a cool guy. I just don't have any attraction. No, but I'll let it go until I don't like it anymore. As long as I like it, I'll let it go as long as I actually like it, and then I'll trim it off from there, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good. I was ready for mine to get trimmed. Usually I wait to the end of the season, but I went a few days early, so
What was bugging you about it?
nothing really. I don't know. I just usually do it at the end of the season and had time to do it on last weekend and just went for it.
Was your wife getting tired of it?
I mean, she's on it. She's not the biggest fan of like a long beard or anything like that, but I don't. I hadn't heard any complaints, so
Yeah, I think that my wife Beth is still liking mine. I'm getting good comments on it, and so I think she's still supporting me.
there you go.
Yeah, she just likes it to be trim on the sides and kind of shaped a little bit. So she's happy.
You just don't want to look like a garden gnome or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I think we derailed on that a little bit, our intro, but our topic for today is something that we all need to discuss, something we have to talk about. Postseason, what things do we have to do? What things should we do kind of to wrap the season up? We're definitely, for me personally, not motivated necessarily to do all these, but I know that it's a good idea.
Yeah, for sure. I my big thing is at the end of the season, I don't want I've got two duck rooms. So I've got one that's just like half of the garage I've taken over, and then the other is this like just concrete room that's kind of tucked down in the basement. And I don't want either of those look like a duck bomb went off in it, which happens sometimes during the season when things get frantic. It's just like there's crap everywhere. And my essential stuff I keep well organized, but my non-essential stuff like my sleeping bags and stuff I'm using early season, especially to camp and all that kind of stuff, it's not organized at all.
Yeah.
So I just like to have the area somewhat organized a little bit to at least to start.
Yeah, that's gonna be one of my projects this year. Me being a somewhat newer waterfowler, I've accumulated a lot of gear kind of over the years, getting so hardcore into it. It's just something you do, and kind of like you said, part of your garage. Pretty much just my whole garage, but I need to make it where it's half my garage so my wife can still park in the garage.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of the plan. Like I've kind of started already. Having screws and the studs in the garage to hang decoys on and that kind of stuff, but making it I add some shelves, all that kind of stuff to organize everything. That way when I come back from hunts it doesn't look like the duck bomb, because that's currently what it looks like. It's just everywhere, just stuff everywhere. And yeah, it'd be a way easier to get to my stuff or find it, or if it was organized to start with.
So do you have a system when you get back from a hunt, as far as like what does it look like when you just get back from a hunt and you come home, and what are the first things you do?
First things I do. So I have two Pete foot dryers. I got one that's like the regular size for boots, and then I got one that's the wader size. So I don't know about you, but I'm always getting sweat and moisture and maybe even getting water over the top of it on my waders. So, excuse me. So have to hit up the Pete foot dryers and put the waders on there, and my gloves are always soaked, so I get kind of a rotation of my gloves going through there, and on the boot one, so I get the gloves and the waders drying first thing. Taking my blind bag, I got a table downstairs. I take my blind bag downstairs, take my all my cameras downstairs, and take my gun downstairs. Wipe my gun off. Usually I'm using either my A5 Wicked Wings or the A5 I got from my grandpa. And if it's the one from my grandpa, I wipe that down right away, because it literally takes like hours to get rust built up on that. I have to wipe it down right away. So yeah, definitely get that wiped down. Get the cameras recharged, clear off the memory, and then make sure I got the right stuff in my blind bag as far as ammo, because usually I'm turning around hunts pretty fast a lot of times.
Do you take everything out of your blind bag, or you just kind of remember what's in there?
I mean, I'll take out like trash. Usually I have granola bars or something like that in there. So I take out the trash, take out the empty shell boxes, switch out the shell boxes if I'm going, from ducks to geese, or, if it's early season, you're switching from going like teal and wood duck to big duck or something like that. But generally I keep the same stuff in there, headlamp, calls, choke tubes, but not a lot else, honestly, and I'll have my dog collar, e-collar, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And ammo. And then camera stuff, obviously. Batteries, cameras, but that's it.
So I've tried really hard over the last 2 years, especially this year, that I've got these black kind of crates on these shelves, and each of them have a particular type of item that's supposed to go in there. So hats in one place, gloves in another, any kind of tools in one. And so when I get home from a hunt, I really try to put everything in its proper location right away to make sure that for the next time I know where it is. Because in the past, I've always like searched, where's this, where's that? There's just so many little gear items that it's just crazy.
Yeah.
So I try when I get back really hard to organize everything. I just have a big bin where my clothes all goes into. And then anything that's wet just goes on the concrete floor, and I either put it in the dryer or whatever. But this time of the year with the off season, like that area, and it's not right. I don't know when I will do it, because right now I really don't want to mess with much of anything. But I want to get everything completely organized in its place. Because if you don't get your crap organized at the end of the off season, you're going to lose a lot of stuff and be searching for it when it's time to gear back up,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's kind of along the lines of what we're saying. Get it organized now, so then when you get into season, it's just way simpler system to go back to and transition from day to day. I don't know how many of our listeners are kind of like what the average is for people in general that hunt, but how often do you do back-to-back hunting?
I'd say probably. That's man, that's a tough one. I'm not sure. I would say 6 or 7 or 8 times in the season I'll do back to back.
So I had a couple times where it was 4 or 5 days in a row this season. That gets really tough because if you're not organized, man.
Yeah, the only time I ever do 3 days in a row is when we go on like one hunt trip in a year, and I'll do 3 in a row on that. But even like the only chances I really have to do that are a Thanksgiving break or Christmas break, and with the family and everything, I don't want to do 3 days in a row. So I even on those breaks, I try to space it out. So it's like a hunt day, a couple days with the family, a hunt day, and I ended up over Christmas break, I think, hunting 5 out of my 14 days, 6 out of my 14 days, something like that. But it's just spaced out unless it gets hot. If it, there's times in which I know 2 years ago that we were really getting at them and we hunted like 4 days out of 7 or something.
Yeah,
just because it was so good at that time. Like taking a day off school and But normally we don't do 3 days in a row. So when I get back from hunt, I will unpack everything out of my backpack and put it where it goes. Because if I'm going 6 days on my hunt again, I want to be able to, before I go on the trip, I want to be able to repack it so I know that it's there. Not just assume.
Yeah, so the first kind of topic we're going to cover, I guess, well, that was the first topic. Second topic we'll kind of cover is kind of talking about gear and clothing, postseason. Big thing for me is waders. If you hunt a lot or if you're rough on your waders, which I'm probably both, got to check those for holes, see if there's any repairs you can make, or see if it's time to replace them. Because, prime time, postseason, and this kind of goes for all the topics we're going to talk about, whether you're looking for new gear, new clothing, new guns, new decoys, anything you're going to do, everything kind of goes on sale postseason, and you can get some good deals. So with the waders, no exception there. See if you need to replace them. Check out, anything you have to do, replacing leaks, all that kind of stuff, or not replacing, repairing leaks. And then if you need to, check for cells coming in the first couple months after season, and try to get a good deal on your next pair of waders.
Yeah, I am absolutely death on waders. I mean, I get about 12 hunts. So when you were up here last time, I was wearing my dad's waders. I wore my dad's waders. I'd say 3 to 5 hunts. Since the tide weed just completely. I have so many holes in those, and I couldn't repair them. And then I went to wearing my pair from last year, which I knew had holes in them, and I tried to repair those, and those didn't go well. So then I brought them for my dad's. Within 4 hunts, now his waders are leaking. I don't know what I do to them.
You probably burnt a hole in them.
No, I didn't. I didn't. I don't know what it is about me, why I can't. I mean, my dad's had those waders for like 2 or 3 years, I think. And I get them like 4 months later, I got a hole in it. I don't know. I don't know. But so every single year I have to buy a new pair of waders. And I had been with going with Rogers, and they were puncturing so quickly that I was getting, a new pair from them quite a bit until I burnt that pair. So I don't know. I want to go. That's the one item off season I always have to worry about is waders. I don't typically buy a bunch of gear, a bunch of clothing, except I hit the thrift stores 3-4 times off season and just look for, like, I found some really good stuff last year. I found a over jacket that I wore probably 5 times, a couple layers. I found some stuff for the kids. So I hit thrift stores. But I don't hardly ever put my money into like new hunting clothing. Just because I'm able to find stuff and piece it together, and then I can use my money elsewhere. But the thrift stores, I really have found so many good things at thrift stores over the years.
Mm. Yeah, that's for sure. I see another thing we got there, prioritizing what you need, and that's kind of helps you along that line. If you can get it at a cheaper shot at a thrift store. Honestly, in my area, I got to figure in your area that you can find a lot of camo and that kind of like warm weather gear and thrift stores. Yeah. But my area, I mean, we're not really highly populated with hunters. So I think thrift stores in maybe your area, or maybe like someplace like Tennessee where hunting is kind of a big deal, would be a lot easier to find. But I don't think I've ever really seen camo in thrift stores around here.
Well, it just depends on, like, I don't find a lot of it, but I'll find some, and I'll find some. I really love wearing vests hunting for my underlayers so that I don't have my shoulders are a little bit broad and they can get really tight when it gets cold. So it might just be like I've got a blue vest and a black vest that are pretty tight fitting. Found those at garage sales and thrift stores. But it's rare to find good camo. And it depends on how, like, some guys really want to wear the top of the line stuff. Yeah. And I would like to. It's just that stuff's so expensive compared to everything else. There's so much to buy.
Did you know that ducks can't see Optifade though?
Are you joking?
Yeah, it's a joke.
Okay. I thought you were joking. I was like, that's that trendy new little honeycomb looking.
That's type, right? Okay. That was just a poke at Sitka gear. I mean, I'm a big fan of Sitka gear as well. Like, I think they make great stuff, but it's no secret that Sitka is pricey.
For sure, and super high quality and fantastic. But I go out the day we went out hunting in that snowstorm over that ice hole. That's like out of my 29 hunts I went on this year, I was only actually cold once or twice. And that was with you with it. And it wasn't like I was so cold that it ruined it at all. It's just you have a little bit of a burr that's cold. So, I mean, you really don't need that super high quality gear to stay warm and dry. You don't. I mean, I hunted in the rain this year. I hunted in the snow. I hunted twice in the rain, sleet, snow, and never was I just dripping wet. So I would advise people not to buy that super high end gear unless you have a bunch of money. If you're on a budget and you have to just prioritize, here's what I need the most, I certainly wouldn't spend it on Sitka and stuff like that. I don't.
Yeah. I mean, I would probably a little bit, but yeah.
If I had a lot more money, I would.
I think the one benefit to that is that you can be less bulky with the same kind of warmth. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to layer necessarily as much, or you have thinner layers that are more thermal. That would be the only thing I would kind of say to that, I guess.
Well, that would be great because the video that I put out where we all went on that snow hunt, my wife and I were laughing so hard because I had so much on and I put on that white hoodie. I looked so fat. Did you notice?
Yeah, I mean, you're not fat. When I've met you in person and you have that many layers on, you're walking around with your waders and your white hoodie like the Michelin Man.
Oh my gosh. I almost hated to have that on video. We were just laughing. I was like, oh my Lord, look. Plus then I always have my camera underneath my layers too that sticks out the gut even more because it's like hanging around my stomach. It's like I look like literally about 290 300 pounds.
Another thing I do is I kind of like you said with the camera shoved in there, I just end up shoving random things in my wader throughout the hunt, and I have like a couple pairs of gloves in there and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I've lost stuff like that until like the next season. You're like, there it is, it's down the bottom of my boot. Well, my thing is I've got an inner pocket on several of my vests that's right over my heart. And I'll try to slip my phone or something down in there and miss, because I've got so many layers and like miss the pocket, thinking it's going in the pocket and it's not. And then it's like you've got my phone in between some layer somewhere in my puffiness.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah. You feel it right around your knee and your waders or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I liked about Tidewee waders is they had a nice little pocket that was small, just phone size, that zipped up right inside the wader, which I really liked that. That was nice.
Yeah. So the last thing I'll just say about gear, whether it's anything, that you don't want to get from thrift stores, you want to get new, any type of gear, I would say check for those sales come postseason. First couple of months, everything's going on sale. Clearance, clearing it out. So next kind of topic we got there, unless you wanted to say something else before we moved on.
Nope.
Okay, next topic we got is what we need to do for our guns once season comes to an end.
Yeah. How many times during the season do you break your gun all the way apart and clean it?
Depends how bad it's jamming, I guess.
Yeah. So every time you feel like it misfunctions at all or misfires at all or whatever, that's when you do it?
Yep. If not, I don't take it apart.
Okay.
So my Wicked Wings I've had to take apart 2 or 3 times this year, and my old A5 I haven't took apart, and completely apart. I haven't taken it apart this year.
Do you take it apart off season?
I will, yeah. I won't break it out like all the way down to the trigger, taking out the trigger and all that kind of stuff, because the old A5s, the way they work, you have to have like a special screw set and all that kind of stuff, and it's a million pieces. So, and if you want to have it done professionally, you're talking like it's a big chunk of change too. I'm not sure the exact price because I've never done it, but I talked to my grandfather-in-law who was a gunsmith, and he warned me about taking it apart myself.
Oh man, could he do it for you?
He could, yeah, but he just lives 9 hours away.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I probably take my A300 apart 5-6 times a year, maybe I'd say. If it does any kind of, the problems I've had with that gun are I've had some misfires where it just clicks. And then I've had some just where the second shot doesn't fully kick the shell in. So whenever it does that, I break it all the way apart, either of those things, which early season I was doing it like every hunt because and then it started functioning so much better. If it's functioning perfect, I don't do it. Just like you, but then off season I always do it at least once. But those A300s, those Berettas are really pretty simple to get in and out, and it makes it really nice. But certainly at the end of the year, I want to take it all the way apart, totally clean the insides, get it ready to go.
Yeah. And the next thing I'd kind of say is, I'm sure anybody who's waterfowled for any amount of time, and especially people who change out their chokes, or I'd say people who don't change them out very often, definitely have had this happen at some point, where you go to take out your choke, you're twisting with all your might and it won't budge. So off season is always great. Check out your chokes, especially when we're talking about breaking down your gun, cleaning your barrel, doing the whole 9 yards. Make sure you take out your choke. Sometimes that gets kind of left out of the kind of whole part of cleaning your gun, but you got threads there, and that can seize up. So just make sure you take that out there and clean up the threads, clean up your chokes. And then before you put it in, kind of a good tip on this is make sure you just put a little dab of oil on it and spread it all around the threads and then screw it back in. You don't want to leave it without the choke too, because you don't want to leave those threads kind of bare to get damaged.
Yep. Did you use the modified improved the whole season and never change?
No, I did. I used the modified to start with, and then I switched to modified improved on my 12 gauge, and I stuck with that. But on my 20 gauge, I used modified.
Yeah,
just all sense. Season. But yeah, I don't know. I've just done really well with that gun on modified, so there's no reason to switch it. Even on geese, I mean, I'll use modified on geese with the 20 gauge, and you know, it smacks them down. That gun is a freaking champion.
I'm part of it's mental, I'm sure.
No, I mean that gun. I don't know. Maybe it is part mental, and maybe I'm just better at aiming that gun than any other gun. Yeah. But it's just, I mean, I can't believe how well I do with geese on that gun as well. Just kind of historically.
Well, if you get geese in close, they're pretty easy to kill. If you're going to be shooting at them from 40 to 50, they can eat some shot and not go down. But you get them in close, and they die pretty easy.
Yeah, yeah. I'll have a story for our hunt update. I guess it'll be the podcast before this one, so you guys already know about it. But you haven't heard it yet, Elliot. So
okay. Well, I will hear it when we record it in just a little bit, won't I?
Yep.
So last season the last 2 seasons, I was using improved for teal, but then this year improved 4s. This year we switched to 6s and used modified. And man, I shot better at teal this year. Some of which we just had really easy shots, but I shot way better percentage wise on teal this year than I ever have. So I think I'm just going to start going to modified all year round. Just leave it in.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I guess it just depends on confidence and all that kind of stuff. I don't really see anything wrong with improved modified. But yeah, if you're hitting them well, then modified's the way to go. I think it's all just about patterning. And my gun, like that 20 gauge patterns so well with 4s, and the modified, it's just like, I mean, I'll shoot geese with 4s out of that. I mean, it's a little light, but it just patterns so well. And until I find another shell with, you know, number 2s maybe for geese that pattern better, then, I mean, I don't have any problem shooting 4s at geese.
Yeah, I actually would have kept 6s into bigger ducks, but I ran out of them. Because just like you're saying with your 4s, the 6s, the federal 6s, when I patterned them with a modified, they just patterned so much better than the 2s. I mean, it was crazy how much better they patterned. Because we bought 6s and 2s is what a case of 6s, case of 2s.
Yeah,
and
I'd really like to have an expert on at some point in the podcast talking about chokes and shot sizes and why things pattern better. And because I mean, it does make a big difference to have your pattern. But the thing I'd tell people to be wary about is if you're going to shoot, you know, long shots, and some people just do that, whether it's ethical or not is another subject, but there's no way you can shoot like number 4s at geese at a long distance because they're not going to hold their, they're not going to have very much power once they get to the goose at a distance when you're talking about something with low density like fast still by the time it gets out there. So that's what I'd say to be wary of. If you're taking a long shot and you got number 4s in there and you got number 6s for ducks even, you know, that's just something to be kind of aware.
Yeah, absolutely. They lose their energy and you just end up sending them away with steel in them.
Next, we got decoys. You want to go ahead and start on this one?
Sure. So I would say with decoys, you want to inevitably at the end of the season, I've got some decoys that either have holes in them because corn shot them, or they've got weights that have fallen off. So I've already done this actually right now. I sort them into get all the ones that are taking water out, get all the ones that need to be repaired, and just get them in an area where when you're ready to repair them, they're ready to go and you know which ones need to be worked on.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about filling any with foam? I know some people do that, and that's kind of a general thing for a lot of times they do that for diver hunting because you shoot your decoys a lot when you diver hunt.
Hmm. No, I've never thought about that.
So I don't know if you ever get decoys to the point where they got so many holes, you know.
Yeah.
But
I guess what I was thinking is just like with the White Rocks, I'm gonna take the Nomad, the ones um that you can squish down, and I'm going to take some either Gorilla Glue or something and seal that hole so that they're more like the Pool 7. And I'm assuming you can probably just do that with the ones you've shot as well.
yeah,
Is
yeah, I'd probably use like some type of waterproof 2-part epoxy.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if Gorilla Glue would hold up to that or not.
Well, I used it on my waders one time, and it does pretty well. It hardens, but I'm sure there's probably Aqua Seal's probably the thing to use.
Yeah.
But some of those rubberized glues peel off pretty easy. That when I use Gorilla Glue on my waders, it actually worked pretty well.
Yeah, and kind of talking about the White Rock decoys. There's a lot of companies I think that've kind of switched to more of that softer plastic compared to the older decoys that were the hard plastic, and I think that's one for durability. But I wonder kind of too. They seem that they'd be more buoyant with that type of material, even if they got water in them. Obviously, if they filled completely up, you know, they're going to sink. But
Yeah, I think they probably are. The problem I was having is that the Nomads with the hole in the back, so air can travel in and out, and that way you can um, constrict them down to carry more. I would inevitably get some water in there that wouldn't come out, and then they would freeze, and you'd have ice in there. And they will not float properly with ice in there. I can tell you that, but I'm sure they are more buoyant.
Gotcha. So next kind of topic we wanted to hit up is kind of your boating. So on that, what we got, kind of checking your engine, making sure everything is working right. I know, Elliot, you've had your boat in and out of the shop the last couple of years. And during season, that'll kill you. So I know when you flipped your boat, you lost your boat pretty much for the whole season just due to engine work. So if you got anything to hit up there, you know, that's a prime time to do it when you're not hunting, not using the boat.
And the bearings on the trailer are a huge deal because man, they get water in there, and if you got to repack those and just keep an eye on them all the time, or it can really bite you in the butt if you don't keep track of making sure your bearings are in good shape and packed. And just a good clean. I mean, man, our boat is muddy right now, so I need to take it in, just power wash it, because we will use it for our fishing boat off season and stuff, and it's just no fun when it's got mud in it and then it rains and now it's not caked mud, it's muddy. So just giving it a good clean as well.
Yeah,
and that's the big boat. There's lots of things for the smaller boats too.
Yeah, that's one thing we could have hit up on the decoys as well that I didn't think of. But you know, it might be a good time to hose down all your decoys as well, especially some of those early season ones like till hunts. All my decoys got so muddy. Yeah. And areas like that, you get kind of muddy. So good time, get everything, you know, cleaned off, washed off before you get out there and put them in storage. So kind of hitting up the boat again. Do you do anything for your canoes or kayaks for off season?
Well, I need to this year. They came with my H12 came with this handles that were I'm not sure what kind of material it was. Some kind, not a cloth, but canvas. I don't know, but we put so much strain on, they ripped off. So I need to put on metal handles on the front and the back of those. And then it just really needs, the whole thing needs to be cleaned out. So the blind will come off. The seat will go back in. It'll get all cleaned out on the inside. And then I need to decide what I'm going to do with the blind itself. Rebrushing the blind will be another one of the off-season jobs. But normally, now with our layout boats in the past, we always had to patch them. With the fiberglass ones, we were so hard on them that every off-season we were using fiberglass patch kits and patching them. The H12s have not shown a single sign of leaking at this point. So hopefully that won't be a big problem for the H12s, but it was always a problem for our traditional layout boats.
Yeah, I've never had a leak on my canoe as well, so but I could see after over time something like that might happen. One thing I've kind of thought about doing, kind of off-season project for the canoe would have been do a camo spray paint job, but honestly, I don't know if that's necessary.
I had a huge cargo canoe I tried to spray paint, and man, it just did not adhere to that fiberglass at all. I mean, I tried really hard and took it out one time. It's like, oh, I didn't even look like I even did anything. So I don't know whether whether you need a special kind of spray paint or what you could apply something to help it stick better, but it didn't last at all.
Was your canoe pretty dirty? Maybe the dirt was just kind of.
Oh, I imagine it was. I mean, I was fishing in that canoe when I was about 7, so it's been around a while. It probably was pretty dirty. It would be just like me not to clean it at all. I can tell you that. Yeah, we still have it. It's a trooper. In fact, I took it fishing up to Valentine just last year, so it's still in action.
Awesome. And I guess the last thing I'd say about boats, any kind of projects you want to do, whether it's trying to build a blind on it or, camo spray paint and all that kind of stuff, prime time, postseason, actually that'd probably be something to put off till it's a little warmer. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of being cold, so.
Yeah. Quite honestly, I'm not in the mood to do, I mean, like all this list that we're talking about, it will happen in my life, but it's not happening like right when the season ends. Yeah. It's going to be a little bit until I start missing. Once I start missing the waterfowl hunting, which maybe some people do the first day it's over, but it's like I'm glad right now to be home more with my family and to be relaxing and just taking it easy and getting more sleep. I'm perfectly fine to take a little time off. So when I start feeling that kind of depression, that's when this stuff will start kicking in. Because then you're just fiddling with your toys, basically,
Yeah, well, the indoor stuff for sure I'll get done pretty quickly, but the outdoor stuff I'm gonna wait till either the warm days in March or probably April. But I probably should get on them sooner because if you can push through it and struggle through the cold to duck hunt, you probably should organize and get everything in order too. But it doesn't always turn out that way.
No, and I can tell you by the time the first teal hunt, everything I have is perfectly organized. It's spick and span. It looks great. So right now, my one room down in the basement is it's becoming more like my camping, fishing, odds and end gear. And then out in the garage, it's like everyday hunt stuff. So my everyday hunt stuff is organized right now. It's all that other miscellaneous crap that I have and all the extra clothes, all the stuff for the boys. Oh my God. I should take a picture of that room and show it to you. I don't think you ever even went into that room when you were here.
I think we did the first time I was there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Looking for something.
Yeah, it gets worse than that, but that's the stuff I won't start organizing for a while, probably.
Next topic, kind of your hunting grounds, your areas you want to hunt in. So I guess the first thing I'd say is, scouting out areas that you didn't get a chance to. There's always areas. I do a lot of like off-season kind of map scouting, and a lot of times it's good to do it right when season ends. Although their kind of late season patterns aren't always going to match up as far as the ducks and geese go with the early season, but it's better than, scouting in July or something like that. So if you get a chance and you're not too busy hunting now, swing by some of your spots you wanted to scout, whether you need to get in the boat or not, or do it from the road. And kind of along the same lines as that, with your private spots that you're scouting, opposed to the public ones, try to make connections with the landowners, and potentially, get that permission now. It doesn't, as far as like fields go, you obviously can't really get permission, or you don't need to. You don't know what's going to be planted in it next year. You don't know where the birds are going to be. Usually that's something we kind of hit up as we go. But when you get those marshes kind of in the back 40 of people's property or something like that you want to hit up, or ponds, farm ponds that that hold birds, great time. I know for myself personally, I end up hunting the same spots a lot of times that I did all through the year, or the same spots I already have permission. And there's a lot of ones that I never got the time to, just because it's more simple just to go with what you already got.
Yeah, for sure. And I'd say on the migration back north, it's fun just to get in the marshes and spend some time out there and see the birds. Um, Even throw out a half dozen decoys and blow the call a little bit. It can be real. We've done that multiple times. That's really fun as well. Don't have any guns with you at all, because then you're in um, I'm not even sure. I need to check with the next time we have the game manager from Cheyenne Bottoms, because I've never actually asked any manager if that's illegal to throw out a few decoys and try to decoy ducks, and not like somehow considered harassment or something. I wouldn't think that it is. We've done it
I
multiple
wouldn't
times.
think so either. No, I would think that's perfectly fine. But yeah, it's probably best to double check.
Yeah.
One thing I've heard from photographers is they call that the second season. When you get that migration back north and get out there and take some photos. I don't know how many listeners we have that are avid photographers. Us being content creators, probably a little bit more, but it's always good to get some of those photos on some live ducks as well.
Yeah, and it's just a day in the marsh decoying birds with no one else around. When you go out in the spring on the north migration, you have it all to yourself, and that's fun.
Nice.
So throw a scout decoy in.
Yeah, put your Terry the Confidence Teal back out there.
We didn't even talk much about Terry this year, or Jerry. We only talked about him on one episode, actually. I don't know, because Terry got lost, and then we had Jerry, but we didn't even talk about it.
So I guess next subject, dog work. Make sure you inspect your dog for injuries, anything you might have missed during season. Honestly, this is something you should be doing quite often. I don't know. Have you had? I know you had with Izzy. You had her pull, or she tore her hamstring, ACL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And so, have you ever had kind of any other injuries that you found kind of postseason or even during the season with your dog?
Well, just with her, she's had this right front leg. It's either scar tissue from an injury, the vet said, or it's arthritis that she limps from. And I don't really know what to do with it. That's the only one that I have found. My dad has found, my dad's dogs are always injury prone for some reason, where they either get like seeds in their eyes or stuff in their ears or run into a porcupine or, whatever.
That doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, no. But Izzy has been extremely injury free her whole life, minus a couple, the ACL being the big one and the arthritis. But
yeah, the only things I've had on Chief is he's tore his pad a couple times, and then he's opened up his nose from doing retrieves on the ground at home just because he doesn't slow down right when he picks up the bumper. So yeah, I'd just say kind of along those lines, inspect your dog for kind of the general wear and tear of the season. Make sure they don't have anything you need to see your vet for, that kind of stuff. And then along the same lines, once it gets to the end of the season, I know I fall kind of susceptible to this at times, but don't forget, to keep your dog's activity level up, especially when they're used to it, going out kind of day after day or, week after week hunting, that you don't just fall off completely with nothing for them to do. And then, it's a great time to get those drills and start, doing your dog work right away, and work on your stuffed improvement.
Yeah, make a list of things that were failures or areas of need for your dog as far as out in the field during the season, and work on those, and then maybe try to add something new to improve, the level of your dog's retrieving as well.
Yeah. And the one thing I'll say for Chief is he's always had trouble with ice, and the only time that I can work on that is right now when it's cold. So postseason is going to come out, and I'm going to have to get out there at least, somewhat with the ice, even though I don't want to. I'm tired of being cold, but we can't work on the ice any other time.
Yeah, I wonder. We should ask one of the next dog guys we have on. I think we've got one. We just have one. Anyway, next time about that, because those types of things, I've always assumed it's like, how do you get a dog who doesn't like ice to just be more willing to plunge in?
Yeah.
Especially when your time to practice it, like you said, it's so limited that I don't know. It's a tough one.
Yeah. And then
I'm done working Izzy. As far as I don't really train her much anymore. Her being she's turning 12 this August. At this point, she kind of is what she is.
Yeah, and she's kind of going into semi-retirement as well.
Yeah, she is. So I really need to start. For me, it's going to be I need to get serious about getting a timeline for when I want to get the new dog and start studying up. I think I'm going to go ahead and use Water Dog again that I used with Izzy, even though I had someone called it outdated recently, which I don't know. I mean, if something works for a dog, I don't know. It could be outdated.
Yeah, but their DNA hasn't changed, so.
Yeah. But really kind of I want to step up my training abilities. So if I'm going to get a dog probably early December next year or around December, I'm thinking I want to just go to the next level with my knowledge on training. So that's now is a good time to start that.
Yeah. Definitely agree on that. So hopefully we see that sometime soon.
Yeah.
So kind of the bonus tip for people who either are in a relationship or married, season ends right now. Start working on those brownie points because season's going to be back in before you know it, and you're going to be wanting to hunt weekends, make trips. So anything you can do to build up those brownie points, start early, get those built up.
Yeah, I call the off season. My wife's name is Beth. I call the off season the season of Beth. So I'm a teacher, so I stay home during the off season. So I'm always encouraging her. It's like, I'm not working. I'm here. Go out with your friends. Go do whatever you want to do. Go. I'll do whatever, because it's important. I mean, she's here. Me working during the week, I hunt mostly Saturdays. She's here every Saturday, taking care of the house duty. The kids are here. So just even if she doesn't do it and go out a lot, just her hearing me encouraging her to do it and reminding her, like, do what do. She's like, oh, so-and-so called. I'm like, go. It helps your wife just to feel that attitude, whether they take you up on it or not. In fact, I've got a season 1 or 2. I made a whole video about tips to keep your wife happy. That's kind of it's not very good quality. It's kind of dated. My mom and I did it together. It's a pretty good video. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I think I remember that one. I don't remember the tips, but I remember the video.
You remember the game show? I did too. I did that one. Then I did a game show.
I remember the one where you did it with Corn and Dan and who else was it?
Fumble. And Dan's wife just ate him alive.
Yeah, he got like what, a 2 or something.
Yeah, it was a whole game show, which we had different categories, and it was like the wife was rated each of us on how we did in these categories. And man, Dan's wife took him apart. It got awkward in here.
I was gonna say that was like it'd be a rough one. That's a scary one.
I think your wife would give you good ratings after meeting her. I think you keep her pretty happy.
We'll see. Yeah, she's definitely. I'll definitely say that she's supportive of all the stuff we got going on. You have to be married to somebody special for all the stuff we put them through with. all the craziness of duck season and content creation and all the time that goes into it. So
absolutely,
definitely thankful for that.
Because with our wives, it doesn't end when you get home. You got all the editing to do, and so yeah, very special women.
All right, well, I think that about covers the list. I'm sure we probably forgot some. If we did, make sure to let us know, and we'll add it to our list of things we got to do this off season. So, anyways, I think that's all we got. Anything you want to add, Elliot?
Nope, that's it.
Alrighty. Well, we appreciate you guys tuning in week after week for the podcast. Off season's coming in here, but we're not going anywhere. So we'll still be doing the podcast every week. So whether you're watching us live on YouTube or, communicating with us in the Fellowship of the Duck Gun and our Facebook page or watching our content on YouTube, we're still going to be out there. So we'll be seeing you guys around, but that's all we got for this week. I'm Jordan, Duck Gun Chronicles, Elliot from Freelance Duck Hunting, and we'll see you guys next time. And for those of you watching the stream, we'll have a short intermission, and we will jump right back into the weekly hunt update. So we'll see you guys in a few.
Me a little opposition just because of the road conditions, but I wasn't going to leave until noon, so I'll just have to wake up and see how slick it actually is. Because I mean, if there's 2/10 of an ice all over the highways and everything, and I got to drive an hour, obviously that could be a problem. So just have to see how it plays out. But I'm hoping to get out tomorrow for a goose hunt with corn is the hope.
Yep, that'd be great for you anyway.
He went out to can I go ahead and talk about it now, or do we have some kind of order?
Well,
you want to go through?
I don't know. I guess there's a couple things in the news I want to hit up before we get right into our hunt updates.
Okay.
So, first thing is that it's official. The Atlantic Flyway, they have reduced the mallard limit next year to 2 mallards, and only one of which can be a hen. So, and their hunting season is reduced. I believe it said 30 days.
Ooh.
So they're getting kind of hit over there, and I think it's just due to the lack of population of birds and trying to help out with that. But I feel somewhat sorry for the folks that live over in that part of the country.
So, like, does that include, because the sea duck hunters, they only get a 30-day season too?
I believe so. I mean, I guess the way I read it, that's the way I understood it. I could be incorrect, and if you're in those flyways, I would double check. But when I read it, that I read it as the season was being reduced, and the mallard limit was being cut in half as well.
Man, because if I was a sea duck hunter, because I don't think there have any population problems on sea ducks that I've heard of.
Yeah, I don't think so.
If I was a sea duck hunter and they cut my season to 30 days because the mallards, I would be a little bit livid, I'd say.
How can you be a little bit livid?
Yeah, you can't be. I'd be pissed.
Yeah, either you're livid or you're not, I think. But,
true. You can't be a little bit.
Yeah.
I would be mad. So I have not followed. I knew that, like, I did a video about the pintails last year and why their numbers are low and everything. And I actually meant to do a similar video on scaup and the black duck. I guess I never realized before this year that they were having issues with the mallards out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just one, it's population. Like you think about all the way over to Washington State, their limit over there, Washington, Wyoming, Utah, their limit for mallards is 7 per person. And you kind of go across the state. You know, I know Nebraska and Kansas, your limit for mallards is 5. Then you get over towards, you know, Indiana and Michigan and those states, your mallard limit is 4, and then you get to the Atlantic flyway, and now it's going to be 2. So I think it's pretty similar if you look at kind of the population of the country. It's just, you know, overpopulation of people, and it takes away from habitat. And I think the main issue is nesting grounds, but it's also something that when I read the article, they didn't really have a set kind of answer as to why they thought there was such a big struggle with the number of mallards. And so it's just trying to help out with that to reduce the number that are being harvested. But you talk to a lot of people I see in the comments when this stuff gets posted in forums, and people in like South Carolina, and we just talked to John that hunted with us in Kansas, and he's only shot what, 3 mallards in his life, and one of which was like a farm duck. And other people have said, I haven't shot one in 10 years, or I've never shot a mallard. And that's some of the comments I'm reading under this section. So I think that it's, you know, it's a real thing that they don't have mallards. But, you know, I kind of think it's crazy to chop the season down, reduce the number of days, because you can still hunt wood ducks. There's no problem with population there and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure exactly why. I know for myself, I'd be pretty, you know, sad to see the season reduced by that much.
Well, here's what doesn't make sense to me. So all of the modern day biologists are saying, doesn't matter how many hens you kill, doesn't affect the population. That hunter kill numbers just really doesn't make a difference. Then on the other hand, they turn around and they each year will decide how many you can harvest based on the population size. And I would love to have someone explain to me how does both of those ideas together make sense? If hunter kill numbers don't affect population size, then taking it down to 2 and cutting it 30 days isn't going to help. To me, it's, unless there's something I'm missing in those thoughts, it's one or the other. Either you can affect population by kill numbers, or you can't.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess if they just have an issue, maybe they're just trying something. You know, they tried it with pintail limits across the board and went to 1. Not this season, but the season before. And then they popped it back up to 2. So maybe this isn't going to be something that's permanent. Maybe it is. I don't know. But
well, they popped it back up to 2 because the population. They do the number that you can shoot is based off the previous season numbers. So when it was 1 2 years ago, we saw just pintails everywhere because the population was actually up, but they weren't basing their bag limits off the numbers of that current season. It's the season prior. So I guess that year there were so many, there was actually like a plus 6% in pintails. So it went, but it went down to 1 because the year before it was lower. So then this last off season, the pintail numbers dropped, but the bag number went up because they were using the nesting numbers from the previous year. So it's like, oh, it just seems crazy to me.
Yeah. So I'm sure they got their reasons. They've done their studies, and I guess whether we like it or not, it's happening. So we'll see. We'll see what the future holds for that.
I wonder if there'd be some game manager or someone out from that flyway that could come on and talk to us. That would be really interesting. I know we're planning on having hopefully the Cheyenne Bottoms manager on again, and certainly we can get his thoughts and opinion on it. But getting someone even like from a DU chapter out there, I mean, that would be really interesting.
Yeah. If anybody in those kind of situations listen to the podcast, reach out to us, or if you know of somebody, have them reach out to us, and we'll get them on here to talk about it. So the other kind of story, kind of a cool story, from hunting news. Well, I guess not necessarily hunting news, but wildlife news. Just this week, there was a hiker in Colorado that was attacked by a mountain lion, and he survived and choked out the lion.
Really?
Yeah, with his bare hands.
Oh my gosh. I'd like to see the arms on that guy.
Yeah, I know, that's crazy.
He kill it?
Yeah, he killed it. He killed the mountain lion in self-defense. For all the animal activists out there, self-defense. He was being attacked. The story read word for word, he was bit in the face by the mountain lion before he choked it out.
That's a stud.
Yeah, so that guy, they said he had serious injuries, lacerations and cuts to the face, arms, and back from the mountain lion. But he survived, he choked it out, and killed the lion.
Just for the record, I do not think I could choke out a mountain lion.
I don't either. I was actually having this discussion with Hunter, one of my coworkers today, and he was, we're looking at the pictures like, yeah, there's just no way. It's like crazy, these mountain lions are huge. Like trying to estimate the weight, we could have probably just like Wikipedia searched the weight, but we're just looking at pictures. Man, those things are giant. And it's just crazy that this guy, had the will to survive and push through that and choke out a mountain lion while it's, tearing at him with his claws and teeth and biting its face. And so yeah, they said he has serious injuries, but he's going to have a full recovery.
I can't remember your boss's name. What's his name again?
Tim.
I think he could choke one out.
Probably with one hand. Just grab it.
He's got massive arms.
Yeah. Well, he works in like the pump industry, like irrigation wells and all that. That's kind of where his business started. And when you do that, you got to turn like you literally turn like 12-inch pipes like by hand.
Wow. So, you
use tools. I shouldn't say just by hand, but there's a lot of muscle that goes into that kind of work.
Uh-huh.
So you can tell from him.
I feel pretty confident he could choke one out. We just so do you have mountain lions in Indiana?
Not very many.
Okay, but a few wanderers.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what we have as well. In fact, when I was growing up, the state denied they were around, and most farmers you would talk to would say, "Oh yeah, well I know we've got one because I've seen them." And farmers aren't the type of people that are going to really misidentify. They're out there all the time. They know what they're looking at, but. So we know that they're in the state, and someone just killed one. They found one out dead somewhere that someone had shot. It was massive on this side of the state just recently.
Oh wow!
So they are certainly huge animals.
Yeah, and they roam a lot too, so they can go great distances.
And that's what once the state started admitting they were here, it was like, well, we don't have any breeders, but we just have ones that are wandering through, and which I doubt that's accurate, as many farmers as I personally have talked to that have seen them. So, but I wish I could see one. It'd be cool. We've got tons and tons of bobcats, and I've only seen one in my life. Their cats are just so sly.
Yeah, for sure. And one other thing I want to hit up before we jump into the updates. I know one thing we started doing last week is kind of talking about certain comments we get on videos. And so not completely all negative, but we did have somebody leave a rating review comment, whatever you want to call it, on the podcast. And I wanted to mention that one. So got it right here. And one of the things the guy mentions in this is he says, last but not least, whoever is snoring in the background makes it hard to hear at times, but I love the hunting shows. So I just want to let you know that the person snoring is my dog Chief, and and apparently he's getting picked up on the mic sometimes. So sorry you have to deal with that. I'm sure you're still listening here, but Chief's not going anywhere. I can't help that sometimes he snores. Maybe I'll have to do something with my mic settings, but at this point I guess I wasn't aware that my mic was picking up Chief snoring every once in a while. I had never
heard that. I've never heard it. What I did hear last night on the phone with you, though, is what annoys what that I thought was a motorcycle driving by very loudly. I imagine it in my head. I was like, is he outside? Because that's a motorcycle flying by. You're like, Chief. I was like, that's your dog?
Yeah.
But I've never noticed it while I'm talking to you. Or maybe if I just naturally do and I know Chief is back there, I don't think anything of it.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, that's a dog. But if you're just listening to the podcast, you don't know that some of the time I have Chief set up on screen with me. He's not right now because his mow marsh is, all dirty and out in the garage. But off season, I'll probably have him back out here on cam with me, right beside me. So I'll figure out something for the mic. But until then, you're probably going to hear a little bit of snoring. Just know it's not me or Elliot being bored by our own stories or anything like that. So it's Chief, good old Chief, just sitting back there taking a snooze.
I hadn't seen that comment. I check it frequently just out of curiosity what people are saying. So if you guys listen right now, go hop over, give us a rating and leave a comment. Always fun to read, fun to see the feedback.
Yeah, if you say something interesting enough, maybe we'll review it next week as well. Yeah. So
now, was that on iTunes that you saw
that was on iTunes. So just make sure it has a 5-star next to it. Just kidding. You can put your honest opinion on there, but we do appreciate the 5 stars from you guys.
Yep.
All right, so let's jump into the hunt updates. You got anything this week, Elliot?
Well, I did not go out last weekend. I was gonna have to go out by myself, and the only viable spot was the river, and I just didn't want to go out there blind and run the river by myself, and so I just stayed home. But as we were talking about previously, we've got this ice storm coming, and so school's canceled tomorrow, and so hopefully I'm going to do an afternoon hunt with Corn at his pond. Last time he went and actually scouted it this Monday. He said it is loaded with ducks everywhere, which we can't shoot them, but ducks everywhere and a bunch of geese too. So, and I think it'll probably freeze tomorrow night. So we were thinking about trying to get on it this weekend, but I was worried it was going to be frozen. So if we can get on that tomorrow afternoon, I'll have something to talk about next weekend, and that will probably be that will be my last regular season waterfowl hunt. I hope to go on at least one snow goose hunt, maybe 2. But I certainly wanted to go and get one more dark goose hunt in. So hopefully tomorrow afternoon we can get into them.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll have one weekend as well for geese, late season geese. Hopefully getting them on them Saturday. I doubt I will anytime in between then and now, because that's the only place I know of where I can get them. So Saturday, maybe Sunday afternoon as well. That'll be the plan. Going to try to scout out for both those. But I do have some hunts to talk about. So kind of jumping back to, if you've been following along or anything like that with the stories that I've been telling about my goose hunting season, hasn't been going the greatest. And honestly, I've been hitting up the same kind of area, the same stretch of river that goes back into these creeks and pools, and there's just geese load up there late season, and I can't figure out how to hunt them just right. And it's something that I'm going to learn, and then after that, I'm just going to be smacking limits because there's just so many birds back there that I'm not going to give up on it. But so same thing, I go out there and scout, and I go to this farm, and he's either got this lane that goes through the woods or a lane that kind of cuts over to this field, and everything's frozen. I mean, we're coming right off of the polar vortex, so everything had been frozen. This is the Friday after that. So it's, it's not cold. I mean, it's cold, but it's not, it's not -20, -50 wind chill cold. So go out there and scout, trying to find a goose hunt for me and my dad. And so sure enough, I'm sitting up in the field and just kind of scouting down, looking through my knocks, doing some windshield time and looking down into the river, and I can see some geese in there for sure. And just trying to take a different approach because with all that cold weather, I'd figured kind of the creeks and the pools had completely froze, and even the river had froze for the majority. So I knew we had some birds in there. So now it's all about, trying to get in there and getting on some birds. So I decided to go for it, and it's just me and my dad going out there. So we're going out the next morning. We decided to go just because I'm not necessarily familiar with that area. We're going to wait till daylight to walk in because we don't know how the ice shelves are going to be. We don't know how sturdy they're going to be, all that kind of stuff. So I don't want to do it in the dark. So we go out there. I think we decided about 9 o'clock. We went out there, and just tons of geese. I mean, tons and tons of geese. Just we could see them through the trees. We didn't know how many, but we knew there was a lot. So we decided we're going to try to press around and kind of circle around this pool and come in from one side of it. And, you know, we walk up there and just flock after flock after flock. And we probably pushed out, I don't know, 1,500 geese out of this hole. So, you know, at first we didn't want to push them out. We kind of wanted to wait for them. But when we inched closer, we're just kind of trying to get somewhere we could just see them. And when we inched closer, you know, kept walking closer, late season, these geese are super wary. So it didn't take much, and they busted out of there and just flew away. And like I said, it was just geese flying everywhere. And so we get in there and set up. And pretty much the river is froze. At one end of this pool, it's completely closed off. At the other side of it, we're talking like 5-10 feet wide in the middle that hadn't froze, where the current was still pushing through. So we had this, I mean, it's a pretty big hole in there. So we set up on there. I didn't come prepared. We had the white rock silhouettes. I should have had like shells or full bodies or something, because or a drill or a hammer. I didn't have any way to get these decoys in the ice. So I ended up kind of having just like a pathetic kind of set where I had silhouettes that were sitting in the snow. I'd just stick them down in the snow, or I'd like lean them against a stick or something like that. So I had about a dozen that could get sitting up right in front of us. And so we get set up, but after we push these up, literally we're trying to set them up, and we still have birds kind of circling around and trying to come in and looking at us and giving us a good look. So we get all set up, ready to hunt, and we have some birds come in, and they're flaring. They're not really finishing. We had a couple groups that worked probably in about 45 yards, 40 yards maybe, and we didn't take the shot. And so I'm like, I think that I'm not hidden well enough. My dad was sitting on a log with a bunch of brush right next to him. He looked pretty hidden, and that was the only brush that close up. And it was hard, you know, just with the ice shelf pushing out there to get too close to the edge of the water. So I ended up pushing back into the trees a little bit to kind of give us some better cover. That way I was hidden as well. So then the next group that worked in, they came, you know, about 40 yards, and, you know, I called a shot, and he shot and missed, and maybe it was a little too far, but missed on those. And then we had a single come through there, and I missed on that. It was another passing shot. And it was a shot that I hit, you know, 9 times out of 10, but for whatever reason I missed it. Shot twice, missed that one. So it wasn't, you know, having the best start, but kind of one thing that was interesting about it is, you know, swans don't get hunted where we're at, so they almost seem dumb. I mean, they're not, but they're just not scared of people. So they were just sitting, literally just sitting 100 yards from us on the ice, and just sitting there, just chilling. And there was a goose with them too, and that was actually the single that picked up and flew over top of us. And Chief was getting antsy, and he was charging towards the swans. I had to call him back. I'm like, Chief, come back here. We can't hunt those. He's like, come on, man. We got birds right here. What are we doing? And they're just sitting there on the ice. And so, yeah, eventually they flew off. It was pretty cool. We had them fly right in front of us, all of 15 of them or whatever. That's just an estimate. But, yeah, so then we get back set up, and we're waiting for the geese to come, and we have a pair come in there. And they cupped right in perfect. But the problem with it was Dad was sitting on the log. They cupped in front of him, and I was sitting back in the trees. And they finished kind of to the right of him, and I was to the left of him. So I would have had to shoot almost right over his shoulder. And I'm probably like 10 yards at a 45-degree angle from him back. So I just had no shot at them at all. But they cupped right in front of us, and Dad popped one. He took 2 shots and popped one. That was actually his first goose he'd ever shot. So it was pretty cool.
Sweet.
Yeah, and especially to get them, you know, it seems all too common that you have passing shots, but to have one that decoys all the way in, you know, cupped up, and that be your first goose, and he, like, you know, stone cold folded it, and I go running over there, I'm pumped, and Chief goes running over there, and it lands on the other side of the ice, and Chief swims across the ice, and I was super pumped because, like I said, he's struggled with the ice in the past, but he jumps right in there, grabs the goose off the ice, and then he starts swimming back with it, and the current is pushing through there pretty fast. in this spot, and he gets over to our ice shelf with the goose in his mouth, and he tries to get on the ice shelf, and he can't get back on. So I'm like, oh no, what am I gonna do? Like, you know, I think it gets more shallow down here, and it does, but it doesn't get like dog shallow.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly where it's at. So we do a little bit of struggling. We're going up and down the ice shelf right there, and I'm standing on it, and when I get close to the edge, it starts popping and cracking, and I can't get out on the edge, and he can't jump back on. I can't help him at all. And so he struggles, and he's fighting the current, and he'd get his front paws on there, and the current would push him back. So unfortunately, he never could get back on with the goose in his mouth. And he tried, and he was a trooper. You know, he really wanted to get back on there, and I was impressed with him holding on to it and kept trying. But it ended up trying to get up there, and the goose would get stuck between the ice and his chest. And I've never, you know, done goose like this with the ice shelves and having the dog retrieve. And if it's a duck, Chief jumps right back up. But a goose, he couldn't do it. So I'm not sure, you know, if it's just the current and the weight of the goose and all that kind of combined, but he couldn't get up there. And eventually his chest pushed the goose under the ice, and we lost it. So
Oh, wow.
yeah. So my dad was a little disappointed, you know, anticlimactic for sure. Get your first goose, and we couldn't retrieve it. So
Do you have all that on video?
I do, yeah.
You got to make a video of that.
I'll probably add it. I got so much kind of like unsuccessful or just like really minimal action goose hunts that I'm probably going to make just a combo late season goose hunt video that's going to combine the days, and that'll be in there. So, so after
you couldn't break through the ice and get out there yourself to him?
It was, well, when you're out on the ice, you're literally in the middle of the river.
Yeah, scary.
Because it's froze so much. That when I was out there, I'm standing in the middle of the river when I'm trying to get Chief back up there. I mean, everything's froze. Like, you know, if I go 200 yards down, the river's completely froze. If I go, 50 yards up, it's just that 5-foot section that's open, and it's deep in there, like over my waders deep. And so, yeah, we'll get to that a little bit later. So, we set back up, and we have another pair come in, and we shoot one. We split it. We shoot one. Excuse me, I need to cough. Anyways, probably won't edit that out. You guys will have to deal with that, just like Chief snoring. But have another pair come in, and we actually were talking about, we busted all those geese back. We're like, when are they going to come back? They're probably going to come back right before evening. So let's wait till 1, and then we'll go get some food. Leave everything out here. We didn't have any food with us. We didn't plan ahead and bring any Chef Boyardee or campfire making equipment. So we had to, go actually get some food because we're getting hungry. And then, our plan was to come back in and hunt for the next 4 hours. So we're going to wait till 1, and we have another pair come in. It's like 12:55. And this pair comes in, and we split the one that got the closest to us. And he hops up. His last dying move was to hop up on the ice shelf on the other side. So,
oh my gosh.
And so, again, send Chief, but unfortunately, Chief he wouldn't jump in again after he couldn't get back on. I don't know if he got scared. So it felt like we took steps backwards, and I was pretty disappointed. And at the time, honestly, I was a little upset with him, but looking back, I'm not as upset, but it's an issue I need to get sorted out. And it's like we took steps backwards when he had the failed attempts getting back on. He's like, well, I'm not jumping in there again. I can't get back up. Yeah. So yeah, unfortunate, really frustrating as a hunter, a dog owner, and so we got this other goose on the other side. There's no way to get there. We're trying to figure out how do we get this? If we push the canoe in, we can probably get the canoe on the ice and into the water. But once I get it back to the ice, how do you get out of the canoe onto the ice without breaking the ice? Because you're just going to step on the edge and break the ice and fall in.
So how did Chief get back on the ice without being able to touch the ground at all? Was he able to crawl on it?
He was able to pull himself up, yeah. But he can do that with a duck, but he can't do it with a goose in his mouth.
So there's a lot of dogs that cannot pull themselves up on ice. Most dogs that I have known, out of all of our dogs, my dad's had 3, I've had 2. Only one of those dogs was able to pull themselves up on ice. So you're lucky he can do that.
Yeah, yeah. It was even then it was a struggle. So honestly, that's part of my inexperience with that condition. But I mean, turns out he can climb back up on the ice.
Because in that situation, if Izzy were to do that, there'd be no way of getting her. She can't crawl back up on ice. Not without touching the ground. Even with touching the ground, if it's not real shallow, she still can't do it.
So I wonder if Chief's got experience. He can jump out of the water. He's not a jumper like jumping in like crazy, but I mean he's got enough experience kind of swimming up to my canoe, and I don't know how he does it, but he just kind of lunges out of the water and into the canoe. And I've had him do that with ducks in his mouth. I roll up to him and he's got a duck in his mouth, and he kind of hops right out of the water into the canoe, and front legs and then back legs follow, and he's right up in there.
Even without being able to touch his back legs on the ground?
Yep.
Wow, that's rare. Because if he can't pull himself on ice, you could have been in a really bad situation.
I guess, yeah. I did think about that afterwards, so. Yeah, scary to think about. So
yeah, for sure.
So we couldn't get this other goose. He didn't want to go across and get it. Maybe, good for him not to in that kind of situation. But we couldn't get the canoe. So my idea, I told my dad, I'm like, I'm just going to swim across. And so I'm just going to take my waders off, jump in the river and swim across, grab the goose off the ice and swim back.
What was the temperature?
It was like, it felt pretty warm compared to like other days. It was like mid 30s.
Oh man.
And so my dad's like, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think that's a good idea. And I kept like pushing for it and trying. I'm like, because there's no other way we could retrieve it. And so I'm like, well, if we can't retrieve our geese, there's no point in us hunting. Yeah. And so we kind of agreed at that. And I'm like, well, that kind of stinks. We're going to have all these geese pile back in here, but we can't really get them because we can't get a boat out onto the ice. So we just ended up not being able to hunt. And the thing is, I know it's shallow enough in there at some point because I've done dog work out there in the summer. But, when it gets to winter and your landmarks aren't the best and all that kind of stuff, I didn't know what parts I could touch in or not. So if I just jump in and just hope that it's still shallow there, and I don't know.
Yeah, once ice gets on a river like that, even if you feel like you really, really know it, you get over on ice, it's scary. It's scary. And you may not know. How far was the ice shelf to the open water?
How far in was
Distance-wise, yeah.
I mean, we had spots where it kind of narrowed down that it was only, maybe, I don't know, 30 feet from the edge. And then we had spots where it was like 100 yards to the edge from the ice.
Did you ever see the video I did called Chopping Ice? It's a couple years ago where Aiden brought his axe and we chopped all the way out to the open water.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be the 30 yards. That'd be the way to do it. You just chop a lane so that you can test the level, because you don't want to go on the ice shelf and drop into a hole like that. There's no way. That's just stupid. But if you chop a little lane, you can feel the depth all the way out to where it's open. Yeah. And get it from there, and then your dog has a lane to come back through as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's an
I'd
idea.
Say that'd be the way to do it.
It sounds like.
Of course, we have Aiden with us, who's like,
yeah.
Well, yeah, but Aiden is like fit cross country runner, and he did like 80% of the chopping, and then Corn and I did each 10%.
Yeah, that's an idea as well. I know the only problem. So, yeah, that's the end of that hunt. We decided that, couldn't get the geese, and so honestly, it was a failure. I mean, it was decent. I mean, as far as like working the birds in and my dad getting his first goose, but as far as being able to retrieve the geese, at that point we just had to stop, even though it seemed like it was going to be a good hunt. Mm-hmm. So it was unfortunate, but that's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
So fast forward to today, actually, or yesterday, and me and Hunter went and scouted that same spot. Went out there kind of first thing in the morning. It's like 8:30. We're just seeing geese pouring in there, and geese all over the place and flying everywhere, and going out to feed and coming in there to loaf and decoying in there, and not decoying, but cupping in there, and other birds flying out. And so we're like, man, this is money. Let's hit this up tomorrow. So that's our plan, and that's today. So we go out there again set up. The ice shelves have greatly diminished because it's been warmer. It's been like 40s. We had a bunch of rain, but there's still ice shelves, you know. So we go out there, set up some shelves, put in some floaters, and set up. And literally, it's like first thing, we have some birds come right over top of us, and you know, first shot I bust one, and Sin Chief, he's going out to retrieve it, and again I have another pair come right over me. I'm literally like standing in the water, and these come right over super low, and I take one shot and pop it. And so Chief's going out there to retrieve the one that's dead, and it's floating down the river, and then the next goose lands in the water next to him, and he turns around from the dead one and starts going towards this other one. This one's crippled, and then we have another pair come in, and me and Hunter bust both those as well. So now we got 4 geese down, and honestly, it was a lack of foresight in that situation, because it was really hard to retrieve the geese with the current and all that kind of stuff. So I'm out there, and Chief's just chasing this cripple around in the river, and we got other geese floating away. And so it's like, man, if they're dead and we could get them and get him back, then we could have retrieved the other ones as well. So we have 3 dead on the water, and we have that cripple. So he catches the first cripple, and he brings it back. And we have another one, then I go up over there to grab it, and I'm trudging through the water because I can get in it now that there's not ice. And it's about, you know, 3 inches from the top of my wader, so I don't have much room to spare. And I get right over to this goose, and I go to pick him up. I stick my hand and in his face, and he literally like is knocked out, and he comes back too. And so he rears his head back and spreads his wings, and like, you know, makes that noise and starts hissing at me, and scared the crap out of me. I thought I was about to get thrashed by this goose. And so it all happened in such a hurry. I didn't grab any other shell. So here I have my gun with no ammo. This goose comes back to life right there in front of me. Like I was literally like inches away from grabbing its neck, and it came like back to full life. It was so weird. And so anyways, that one goes swimming off. The only one we got was the one that Chief had in his mouth. So the other ones are going down the river. So we decide, like, what are we gonna do? Like, we didn't bring a boat, and it's kind of like hindsight's 2020. Like, if we just would have shot the one, if you just would have got the dead one first and then came back, and we would have been able to shoot the cripple instead of it being like inches in front of his face. You know, he's just chasing this one. It's, you know, doing all the normal maneuvers cripple ones do, doing diving and coming back up and swimming around, and he's just chasing it. So honestly, I probably should have stopped at 1 or 2 geese shot down, but hindsight's 2020. So unfortunate. So we decided to pack up, and we go back to Hunter's house and grab his boat and go down to a launch that's further down from this farm, and go boating through there trying to find our geese. So one of them, that was the one that I almost grabbed, was so lively that, you know, it hopped up on the ice shelf across from us and was just gone. So we're never going to find that one. But it's dead for sure. I mean, unfortunate, but I mean, it was crippled enough that, you know, a coyote or something like that's going to find it tonight. But so we go boating through there, and we're able to recover another one of the geese downriver from there. But we lost one, and we lost the cripple. Definitely unfortunate. Don't feel the best about that. It's kind of like bittersweet. You know, I go 3 for 3. I shoot 3 times, knock down 3 geese, but then it's like, man, I got overzealous. Like, got, you know, not used to that kind of situation, hunting the river with that swift current and not being able to retrieve them. Literally everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. You know, Chief's chasing the cripple instead of picking up the dead one that was right there, so we couldn't shoot the cripple. The dead one's just floating away. The next goose that I go to pick up comes back to life. I don't have any ammo to finish it off and just pick it up, because I could have just picked it up if I had a shell with me. I didn't have a shell. And so I literally am running away from it and like putting my hands over my ears. I'm like, Hunter, you know, finish this one off. Yeah. And so, and he was too far up the bank, and so it was just like a cluster, and things got crazy too fast. So
what a bad deal.
I know, yeah. And then going boating through there. I mean, it literally, you're talking like adding on like 2.5 hours worth of, going back to his house, going back to the boat launch, boating upstream. And then it was even further down from the boat launch. So then we had to go all the way back to the boat launch and work our way that way. And then we find the one goose and get back there. So, I mean, we definitely went to our, did our due diligence on searching for these geese, but it was just, man, hindsight, we're talking about it, and he's like, man, we shouldn't have shot them. And I'm like, yeah, no, we needed to shoot like one or two, and then Chief would have been able to get, the one and then work to the second one. But we just had geese like flying right over us. And when you get in those kind of situations, I just shot the 3 shells I had and popped 3 geese. So.
Well, that's awesome. You guys put in that much effort to go and find those, because I don't think a very high percentage of hunters would have gone to that amount of effort to find those birds. So well done on that one for sure.
Yeah, I know Hunter felt bad about it, and I'm like, man, we both keep our statistics, and I'm like, my lost birds for the year are 4, and I just doubled it to 7 in one hunt, almost doubled it for the season. Man. So I'm like, man, and so we did find the one. So my lost birds is just at adding 1 from that instead of adding 2 more.
So you have 5 or 6? 5?
I have 5 lost birds this season.
5 out of almost 50 hunts.
Yeah, and that, I mean, out of 60, almost 70 birds, 69 birds if you count the lost ones. So 69 hit birds, I lost 5.
That's not bad.
No. It'd be nice to be 0, but.
Yeah, the average on Freelance Hunt Stats is about 0.3. So, I had 3 out of every 10 hunts someone loses. That's per hunt, not per bird. So 3 out of every 10. Most people lose 1 bird 3 out of every 10 hunts. 3 birds.
It'd be nice to have a stat for instead of per hunt per bird.
That would be. Yeah, that would be nice to have on there. That's my favorite stat to track. Is that lost bird. I lost 2 this year, 1 goose, 1 duck, and my dad didn't lose any, but he only shot 30 birds. But so I went 110 birds, 2 lost. So I was proud of that one. I was really proud of that one.
That's a good number.
And one of them was a stupid goose we shot at Corns Pond, and it was clear on the other side of the pond. We dropped like 3, so the dogs got the other 2, and it swam up the bank line. We just figured, we'll just walk up there and take care of that, no problem. And then we walked over there. I think it waddled out waddled into the pasture or something. But so that's a fun stat to track.
Kind of circling back to that whole ordeal, what do you do in those kind of situations? If you're hunting river with current, I mean, do you hunt that kind of situation very often?
I mean, the Kansas River has good current to it, but we always have our boat there. So, it's been a long time since I'd say the last hunt, little hunt last year where we shot our limit of geese, we walked in and we ended up losing 1 or so because of the current and the water depth, and we didn't have a dog out there. I think just like you said, you just pre-plan it to, okay, here's what we need to do. Talk about it ahead of time. Here's the problems of how we might lose birds. What are we going to do? How are we going to handle it? And just talk it out. So, you guys had the talk. It was just after it happened.
Yeah. And honestly, for me, that's kind of the first time being in that type of situation. And still, I'm not necessarily, I've hunted a lot, but when you get in certain parts of the season, you see different scenarios than what you're necessarily used to with ice, and when hunting different spots where you're hunting in the current instead of some of these back channels where you don't have to really worry about major current or anything like that. And one thing for Chief, I mean, I think Chief's even learning in these situations because he got that goose, and another reason it took him so long to get back to me is he literally just tried to come straight against the current and swam. He swam like that for a couple minutes. He's just like, I'm going to come back to you. And he's holding this goose. He's got a ton of drag from the river pulling right against him, and he's not giving up. And eventually he figured out, I'm not going to be able to swim upstream. I'm going to have to swim over to shore, then run back up.
Yeah, they learned that pretty quick, to not just try to go straight against the current. both Izzy and Candy at this point will know just to angle it and then come up on the bank.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I will say with dogs and rivers and ice and currents like that, when you don't have a boat, you've got to anytime where you have a dog with ice, you have to constantly be thinking about problems that your dog could get into, right? So, like the first time you were on out there, if your dog is running over a river on ice and he breaks into a hole, breaks through a hole, and you can't get out to him, and he can't climb onto ice, which most dogs can't, he's going to die. You're going to sit there and watch him die.
Mm.
So, in fact, we had that scenario almost take place. I ended up ruining. Luckily, I had a little boat with me. My dad's dog fell through a hole on a pond, and it was ice all the way out to him, and I wasn't sure how deep it was, but I had a little boat, and I was braking. I was able to. So the dog was in the ice hole and couldn't get out. This is my dad's second dog, and we had this little tiny Cartson's 10-foot or 8-foot layout boat. And so I used that layout boat to break the ice all the way out to him. And luckily it wasn't over my head. If it had been over my head, I wouldn't have been able to get out there. I got out there, got water all the way down to my waders, ruined my phone because it ended up being depth-wise just above wader deep. But if all that's over my head and that dog can't come out on the ice, and or if we hadn't had that little boat to break the ice with, that dog probably would have died in that situation. So you have to be really, really careful with ice and be thinking those things through as far as what the scenarios are for your dog. Gotcha. You don't want to sit there and watch your dog die.
No, I mean, I jumped in there before that.
Yeah, but you don't want to die over your dog either.
Yeah.
So if your dog falls in an ice hole and then you're trying to save him and then you fall into an ice hole with current underneath, now you're in an even worse situation. So you just have to really be mindful of your dogs in ice and yourself in ice and those type of conditions, because they can be scary. They can be real scary.
Yeah, for sure. So that pretty much sums up my hunt updates for the week. Definitely got into some geese, but we definitely had some trials and testing along the way. So, but like I said, we'll be scouting and hopefully hitting that same area. We busted out at a lot of birds when we walked in there this morning, but we didn't educate very many because most of them were gone by the time we started firing shots, because that was before light. We walked in there.
Yeah. Well, that little canoe you're getting would be perfect in those situations. I know when we have Aiden around, he has a tiny little kayak that's super light. And so typically when we walk into the river, we try to have his little kayak with us to drag in to those scenarios.
Yeah. And we would have took our canoe with us today. So normally we can drive through the field, get a lot closer to the river, but having the canoe, we thought about just carrying it, throwing all the gear in there, but it's just so heavy that it's not really feasible. It's a struggle when it's mucky and slippery like that just to pull a sled. Now you're talking about a sled that's almost no weight to a canoe that's I don't know how much it weighs, 70, 80 pounds. It just would have been nearly impossible. And then, like I said, when we can drive in there, we just drive down there, and then you got to pull the canoe 150 yards through the trees and through the brush to the river. Or you take it when it's not frozen, we can get down to the creek on the farm and then paddle into the river. Or when it's not frozen, which we didn't realize how thought out it was today at the time, we can get into the boat launch a couple miles downstream and come upstream to the spot. So all that kind of stuff we could have, I guess, it could have been played out better, but we couldn't get the canoe down there, unfortunately. But having something light like a smaller canoe or a kayak, definitely another tool for a situation like that.
And do these rivers change? Do they raise and lower in depth quite a bit?
I mean, when it rains.
And do you monitor them? I guarantee there's a USGS.
Yeah, there's all that kind of stuff for them.
Do you keep track of that?
Not normally.
I would say that would make a big difference too, because if you're out in those rivers during the spring and everything, and you're walking around it, is it, what kind of bottom is it? Is it sand or?
It's parts. There's some sand in there, and then there's some muck. You know, the kind of like typical like lily pad.
Yeah.
Bottom.
So not like the Kansas River we were on, where it's all sand.
No, nothing like that at all.
Well, I would say when you go out there in the spring, be watching those the depth of the river and write it down so that you know, because the type of bottoms that you guys have there probably aren't going to change that much compared to like the sand rolling down the river, and it changes as far as where the holes are. So if you figure that out during the spring, as to okay, at this water depth or river depth, then I know this area is walkable or whatever, and keep those numbers charted down. It'll make it a lot easier when you start hunting. You'll have more confidence to know the depth a little more too.
Yeah, definitely agree on that. So, well, I think that kind of wraps up our hunt update. Thanks everybody for tuning in for another week of hunt updates. Sadly, the hunt update series is gonna have to come to an end here soon. I think we'll have another week of it here, pending my and Elliot's hunts here tomorrow and this weekend. But you know, we'll bring it back for turkey season, so I'll be looking forward to that. And yeah, that's all we got for tonight. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm Jordan, Duck Gun Chronicles, Elliot from Freelance Duck Hunting, and we'll see you guys next time.